Once upon a time, in the village of Oti, there lived a young man named Ekin. He was the pride of the village, known not only for his striking good looks, but also for his kindness and strength. Every maiden in Oti dreamt of being his wife, longing for the day he would set his eyes on them and choose one to spend his life with. But Ekin was not swayed by the affections of the maidens in his village. His heart was captivated by a beauty from a neighboring village. Her name was Asanma, but she was fondly called Asa. The first time Ekeni saw Asa, she was returning home from an errand. The evening sun cast a golden glow on her flawless dark skin, and her long flowing hair swayed with the wind. Her deep brown eyes held a mystery, and her presence was captivating. Ekeni stood mesmerized, unable to take his eyes off her. He knew in that moment that she was the one. Gathering his courage, he approached her, hoping to speak to her, but Asa did not even acknowledge his presence. She walked past him, her gaze fixed ahead, as if he did not exist. Ekeni was not one to give up easily. He followed her at a distance, eager to know more about her. As she disappeared into a compound, he turned to a woman standing nearby and greeted her respectfully. "Good afternoon, Ma," he said politely. "Please, who is the young woman that just entered that compound?" The woman looked at him curiously before responding. "You mean Asa?" She pointed at the compound. Ekeni nodded eagerly. "She is the daughter of Mazi Okiki. But don't waste your time, young man," the woman said, shaking her head. "She won't pay you any attention." Eken was taken aback. "Why do you say that?" he asked, intrigued. The woman simply smiled knowingly. "It is left for you to find out," she said, before walking away, leaving Ekena with more questions than answers. Determined to win Asa's heart, Eken began frequenting her village. He brought her gifts, beads, fine fabrics, and the sweetest fruits he could find. He visited her house so often that it seemed as though he lived there. But Asa remained unmoved by his efforts. She barely spoke to him, and when she did, her words were brief and distant. Yet, Eken was not discouraged. The maidens of Oti soon caught wind of Eken's relentless pursuit of Asa. They were puzzled. Why was he so determined to love a girl who did not want him when so many of them were willing to be his wife? Among them were Ada and Oge, two young women who had always harbored feelings for Ekeni. They could no longer watch as he wasted his time on Asa. One day, as Asa made her way to the stream, Ada and Oge intercepted her. Their eyes burned with jealousy and frustration. "Asa," Oge began, folding her arms across her chest. "Why are you stringing Ekeni along if you do not want him?" Asa remained silent, her expression unreadable. She made to step around them, but Ada blocked her path. "Say something," Ada pressed. "If you do not want him, let him go. Let one of us have a chance." Still, Asa said nothing. Instead, she turned and began walking away. Enraged, Oge reached out to grab her arm. But the moment her fingers brushed Asa's skin, an invisible force sent Oge flying backward. She landed hard on the ground, wincing as pain shot through her ankle. "Oge!" Ada screamed, rushing to her side. Oge groaned in pain, clutching her ankle. Asa, without so much as a glance, continued walking, leaving the two maidens in shock. News of the strange incident spread like wildfire. It wasn't the first time. Other maidens who had tried to confront Asa about Ekeni had mysteriously found themselves injured. Twisted ankles, sudden falls, inexplicable pain. Whispers of Asa possessing supernatural powers filled the village. Many began to fear her, while others were simply in awe. Eken's friends tried to warn him. "Ekene, be careful," one of his closest friends, Namdi, urged. "Something is not right with Asa. These are not mere coincidences." Ekene dismissed their concerns with a wave of his hand. "They are just rumors," he insisted. "Asa would not hurt a fly." Then, one fateful evening, Asa finally accepted Ekine's proposal. Excitement filled the air as wedding preparations began. But amidst the joy, there was one person who was deeply troubled: Ekine's mother, Neoma. Neoma had been having nightmares. Every night she dreamt of Asa, but not as the beautiful maiden everyone saw. In her dreams, Asa's eyes glowed red, her voice was hollow, and her presence sent chills down her spine. She saw visions of darkness, of snakes slithering in shadows, of whispers that made her skin crawl. Unable to keep her fears to herself, she confided in her closest friend, Nkoli. "Nkoli, my heart is troubled," Neoma confessed one morning. "I do not trust this girl my son wants to marry." Nkoli nodded solemnly. "Then tell him, my friend, tell Ekene, before it is too late." Summoning her courage, Neoma called Ekene and shared her fears with him. "My son, I beg you," she pleaded, "let us delay this wedding. Give it time. There is something about Asa that does not sit well with me." But Ekene only chuckled, brushing off his mother's worries. "It is just a nightmare, Mama," he said. "You worry too much." And so, the wedding proceeded as planned. It was a grand affair, filled with music, laughter, and celebration. Yet beneath Neoma's forced smiles, unease gnawed at her heart. That night, in their matrimonial home, Ekene reached out to touch his wife, but Asa recoiled. "Not tonight," she whispered. Disappointed but exhausted, Ekene soon fell asleep. But in the dead of night, something stirred. A cold chill swept through the room. When Ekine's eyes fluttered open, his blood ran cold. Lying beside him was not Asa. It was a snake. A massive, glistening serpent coiled beside him, its eyes gleaming in the darkness. Ekene let out a terrified scream and bolted from the bed. He stumbled out of the room, his heart pounding wildly in his chest. The household was awakened by his cries. His parents and relatives rushed to him. "What is it?" his father demanded. Trembling, Ekene pointed at his room. "A snake," he gasped. "Asa is a snake." His parents exchanged uneasy glances before cautiously entering the room. But there, on the bed, lay Asa, sleeping peacefully, looking as human as ever. Confusion clouded everyone's faces. "I know what I saw," Ekene insisted, his voice shaking. The horror had just begun. Dear amazing viewers, what do you think Ekene would do next after what he had just experienced? Keep watching to find out. Before I continue, I would like to ask you to kindly subscribe to my channel. If you haven't subscribed yet, please click on the subscribe button. Much appreciation. And if you are a returning subscriber, welcome back and thank you so much. Now, back to the story. Ekene could not shake off the terror that had gripped him. He spent the rest of the night sitting outside, staring blankly into the darkness, his mind in turmoil. Had he imagined it? Was his exhaustion from the wedding playing tricks on him? But deep in his heart, he knew what he had seen. As dawn broke, Asa emerged from their bedroom, stretching as if she had just experienced the most peaceful sleep of her life. She glanced at Ekene and smiled. "Good morning, my husband," she greeted sweetly, her voice soft and melodious. Ekene jumped slightly at the sound of her voice. He stared at her warily, searching her face for any sign of deception. But there was none. She looked like the beautiful woman he had fallen in love with. No trace of the monstrous being he had seen the night before. Did you not sleep well? Asa asked, tilting her head curiously. Ekene hesitated. Should he tell her what he saw? Would she laugh at him? Or worse, would she become angry? Instead, he simply nodded. I couldn't sleep, he muttered. Asa gave a small smile. You will get used to sleeping beside me. You are my husband now. Her words sent a shiver down his spine. That day, Ekene struggled to focus on anything. His mother, Neoma, watched him closely, noticing the way his hands trembled slightly, the way his eyes darted around as if expecting something to jump out at him. When she could bear it no longer, she pulled him aside. Ekene, my son, tell me the truth, she whispered urgently. What did you see last night? Ekene swallowed hard, his throat dry. I saw a snake, Mama, he finally admitted. A big one. It was lying beside me in the bed. And then when you all came, it was gone. And Asa was there, sleeping as if nothing happened. Neoma gasped, covering her mouth with her hands. Did I not warn you? She whispered. Did I not tell you to wait? Ekene looked away, ashamed. It's too late, Mama, he muttered. No, my son, it is never too late. You must find out the truth about your wife. Something is not right. That night, Ekene prepared himself. He decided that he would stay awake and watch Asa. He needed to know if what he saw was real or if he was simply losing his mind. Asa went to bed early, her soft breathing filling the room. Ekene pretended to be asleep but kept his eyes slightly open, watching her. Hours passed. The silence of the night wrapped around him, heavy and suffocating. Then, just as he was about to drift off, he felt it again, that eerie, cold chill. He turned his head slightly, his heart hammering against his chest. And there it was. The transformation was happening before his very eyes. Asa's beautiful form melted away, her skin rippling like water before changing into thick, scaly patterns. Her limbs disappeared, her body elongating. In mere moments, where his wife had once been, a massive snake now lay, its gleaming eyes watching him. Ekene let out a strangled gasp and leaped out of bed. The snake lifted its head, staring at him, but did not move. Asa, he whispered, his voice shaking. The snake blinked, and then, as suddenly as it had happened, the transformation reversed. The scales disappeared, the body shrank, and in the place of the serpent, Asa lay once more, staring at him with knowing eyes. Ekene backed away until he hit the wall, his breath coming in shallow gasps. You saw, Asa said softly. He nodded, unable to form words. Asa sat up, watching him carefully. You are my husband, Ekene. You chose me, and now you know the truth. What are you? He croaked. She sighed. A being beyond your understanding. But I love you, Ekene. That is why I chose you too. Ekene shook his head violently. This is not love, he whispered. This is something else. He stumbled out of the room, nearly falling as he rushed outside. The night air was cold, but it could not calm the fire of fear burning inside him. He had to get out. He had to leave. The next morning, he made up his mind. He could not stay in this marriage. He needed to leave before it was too late. But would Asa let him go? The realization hit him like a punch to the gut. If Asa had gone to such lengths to be with him, what would she do if he tried to leave? Fear coiled around Ekene's heart like a serpent, and he knew his battle had just begun. Ekene could not sleep that night. He sat outside his home, his mind racing with questions, fear gripping his heart like a vice. Asa was not human. He had seen it with his own eyes. But what was she exactly? Was she a spirit? A demon? A cursed being? He did not know. All he knew was that he could not stay with her. But leaving her would not be easy. What if she refused to let him go? What if she harmed him or his family? The next morning, Ekene made his way to the village elder, Mazi Okafor, a man known for his wisdom and knowledge of ancient things. He had guided many before him, and Ekene hoped he would have answers. "Mazi," Ekene said, after greeting the elder, "I have come to seek your wisdom. There is something deeply troubling me." The old man studied Ekene with sharp eyes. "I know why you are here," he said. "It is about your wife, Asa." Ekene felt his breath hitch. "You know?" Mazi Okafor nodded solemnly. "You are not the first to come with such concerns. Long ago, before you were born, there were whispers of Asa's mother, who mysteriously disappeared. Some say she was not an ordinary woman. Some say she was a being from the other side, sent to walk among us. Asa is her daughter, and she carries her mother's blood." Ekene felt cold all over. "What do I do, Mazi? I cannot stay in this marriage. I do not want to live in fear." The elder sighed. "You must be careful. Asa has chosen you. If you try to leave, she may not let you go easily. But there is a way. If you want to free yourself, you must seek the help of the high priest in the sacred forest. Only he has the power to sever your bond." Ekene nodded determinedly. He had made up his mind. That night, he would leave for the sacred forest. He had to be free. But Asa was not blind to his fear. That evening, as Ekene sat in silence, Asa approached him, her gaze unreadable. "You are afraid of me," she said softly. Ekene tensed, but did not answer. "I know what you are thinking," Asa continued. "You want to leave, but you cannot, Ekene. You are mine." A chill ran down his spine. "I am a man, Asa. I am not a possession." Asa's eyes darkened. "You made a vow, Ekene. You swore to be with me forever." "I did not know what you were when I made that vow," Ekene burst out. Silence stretched between them. Asa's face softened, and for the first time, she looked hurt. "Do you hate me?" she whispered. Ekene swallowed hard. "I do not know what to feel anymore," he admitted, "but I cannot live like this." Tears welled in Asa's eyes. "Then go," she said suddenly. "If you wish to leave, I will not stop you." Ekene stared at her, shocked. He had expected her to fight him, to threaten him, but instead, she was letting him go. That night, Ekene made his way to the sacred forest. The high priest, an old man with deep wrinkles and piercing eyes, listened to his story. "Your bond with Asa is strong," the priest said. "It was sealed by forces older than you and me. Breaking it will not be easy, but if you truly wish to be free, you must pass a test." "What test?" Ekene asked. The priest handed him a small gourd filled with a strange liquid. "Drink this. If your heart is pure and your desire for freedom is true, you will wake up unharmed. But if there is doubt in your heart, the spirits will decide your fate." Ekene hesitated, but took the gourd. He closed his eyes and drank. Darkness enveloped him. When he woke, he was lying on the ground outside the sacred shrine. The priest stood over him, smiling. "You have been granted your freedom," he said. Ekene felt lighter, as if a great weight had been lifted from his soul. He thanked the priest and hurried home. When he arrived, Asa was waiting for him. She looked at him with sad eyes, but said nothing. "I am free," Ekene told her. She nodded. I know, I felt it. What will you do now? He asked. Asa smiled faintly. I will go. I have loved you, Ikin. I will always love you, but I will not force you to stay with me. With that, she turned and walked away, disappearing into the night. And just like that, she was gone. Years passed, and Akin eventually found love again. He married a kind and gentle woman from his village, and together they built a happy life. But sometimes, in the quiet of the night, he would look into the shadows and wonder where Asa had gone. He never saw her again, but he never forgot her. And so, he lived, free, happy, and forever changed by the love of a woman who was never meant to be his. Before you watch the next video, kindly subscribe to my channel if you haven't subscribed yet. Please click on the subscribe button and like this video. Be a part of my channel's growth by clicking on the next video on the screen and drop a comment to let me know what you think about the story. Thank you for watching. Much appreciation.